Hey warriors, welcome back to the channel. In a world where masks are worn more often than honesty, most people walk blind, deceived, manipulated, and misled. Today, we solve a timeless problem: how to see through anyone instantly. No lies, no confusion, no guesswork, just pure power, human nature, the one force that has remained unchanged since the dawn of power. Kings rise, empires fall, faiths shift, civilizations burn and rebuild. But the human heart, with all its desires and weaknesses, beats to the same ancient rhythm. If you wish to read anyone instantly, you must begin with a truth that is so simple, yet so rarely accepted. Human beings are not unpredictable mysteries. They are predictable machines driven by a limited range of emotional fuels. And once you learn to identify the fuel running a person, their actions stop surprising you. Their behavior becomes inevitable, their motives become transparent, their next move becomes obvious even before they decide it themselves. Look around you. Every person you meet believes they are unique, complex, impossible to decode. But beneath the surface, beneath the mask they present to the world, they are ruled by primal instincts: fear, ambition, insecurity, pride, desire for validation, hunger for control. When someone says, "I didn't expect them to do that," what they truly mean is they never took the time to understand what drives them. They never observed the invisible engine behind the face. They never questioned the motives hidden beneath politeness, laughter, or silence. A Machiavellian observer sees through this illusion immediately. He doesn't listen only to words. He reads the motive behind the words. He doesn't analyze only behavior. He studies the emotional source from which the behavior rises. People act not from logic, but from emotion. Even the most rational, disciplined, educated mind is fueled by emotion first, logic second. And this is your advantage. Once you understand which emotion governs someone, you hold a map of their character, their vulnerabilities, their decisions, and the path they are most likely to follow. Consider fear, one of the oldest human masters. A person ruled by fear tries to avoid conflict, avoids responsibility, avoids attention, avoids risk. They speak softly, move cautiously, and live reactively. If you understand this, you know how they will behave when pressure strikes. They will retreat, they will bend, they will seek protection. They may say, "I'm confident," but the trembling of their decisions betrays them. You don't need to guess their next action. Fear makes it for them. Then there are the ambitious, the ones moved by desire for status, recognition, admiration. They observe every room like a battlefield. They measure people like opponents. Compliments disarm them. Attention feeds them. If you read their ambition, you understand immediately that their loyalty is conditional, their decisions transactional, their intentions aimed upward. They are predictable because ambition only moves in one direction, toward more power, more approval, more status. Some are ruled by pride, a fragile but powerful force. Prideful individuals cannot tolerate humiliation, correction, or challenges to their superiority. To read them instantly, you observe how quickly they defend themselves, how often they compare themselves to others, how they speak about failures of others but hide their own. Their pride dictates their reactions. Insult them, and they become enemies. Praise them, and they become allies, for the moment. Their actions are not random. They follow the path that protects their ego. Others are governed by desire, the craving for affection, validation, intimacy, closeness. These individuals attach themselves quickly. They trust too easily. They believe words too fast. Their desire blinds them, and their loneliness directs their choices. Once you understand this, predicting their behavior becomes effortless. They move toward whoever gives them attention and away from whoever threatens their emotional comfort. The insecure are the most transparent of all. They try to disguise their weakness with excessive confidence or exaggerated humility. Their insecurity dictates every decision. They agree even when they shouldn't. They apologize even when they're right. They over-explain, overshare, overanalyze. If you can see this, you can read them instantly. They will always choose the path that avoids judgment. And then there are those rare individuals ruled by dominance, the ones who seek control rather than approval. They stand firm, speak with certainty, and move with purpose. They do not ask, they direct. They do not follow, they lead. But even they are predictable. Their desire for influence guides their choices, and understanding this gives you insight into their ambitions long before they reveal them. When you look at people through this lens, the mysteries disappear. You no longer ask, "Why did they betray me?" or "Why did they change?" or "Why did they lie?" because the answer lies in the emotion that governed them. Betrayal comes from fear or ambition. Lies come from insecurity or pride. Distance comes from desire shifting elsewhere. Everything people do is the visible expression of their invisible emotional ruler. So, the key to reading someone instantly is not to memorize gestures, tricks, or superficial cues. It is to study the emotional current underneath their behavior. When you meet someone, listen not to their words, but to the emotional pressure behind those words. Watch not their face, but the consistency of their reactions. Ask yourself, what does this person fear? What do they crave? What weakness are they trying to conceal? What outcome are they trying to secure? Because once you identify the dominant emotion that drives a person, you stop reacting to their behavior, you start predicting it. Human beings are masters of disguise. They polish their words, adjust their tone, rehearse their stories, and craft the perfect version of themselves to present to the world. But no matter how carefully they construct the mask, there are small cracks, tiny movements, unconscious reactions, momentary slips that reveal everything they try to hide. These are the micro-behaviors, the subtle signals people give off without realizing it. And if you learn to see them, you possess an advantage greater than persuasion, greater than strategy, even greater than intelligence. You possess the ability to read truth in real time, in the instant it escapes them, before they can cover it, deny it, or rationalize it. Most people listen to language, but language is the least reliable indicator of truth. A lie can be crafted in seconds. A tone can be adjusted. A sentence can be rehearsed. But micro-behaviors, those flickers of the eyes, the tightening of the jaw, the quick inhale of breath, the shift in posture, these cannot be controlled. They are not conscious choices. They are instinctive reactions driven by the emotional state within. And that is why they are the most powerful tool for reading anyone instantly. Watch the eyes, not in the exaggerated, dramatic way that amateurs do, but in the subtle way that a strategist observe. When someone feels threatened, their eyelids tighten for a fraction of a second. When they are surprised, the eyes open slightly wider, even when the face remains still. When someone is hiding something, their blink rate changes. They either blink too much or not at all, both signs of internal conflict. And when someone is drawn to you, whether by admiration, curiosity, or desire, their pupils dilate, not dramatically, but noticeably enough that a trained observer will catch it. The eyes are the one part of the body that struggles to lie because they reflect the nervous system directly, then observe the mouth. A smile reveals more in the moments before and after than during the expression itself. A genuine smile raises the cheeks and narrows the eyes. A forced smile moves only the lips. A smirk appears for less than a second when someone feels superior or secretly amused. Pressed lips signal restraint, either of anger, fear, or an unspoken opinion. When someone wants to interrupt but restrains themselves, the corners of their mouth twitch. Every tiny movement around the mouth is a doorway into the emotional tension they are trying to control. Hands are equally revealing. Most people have no idea how much emotion they express through their fingers. When someone is hiding anxiety, they touch their neck, their watch, their fingers, their clothing. They rub their palms when trying to reassure themselves. They clench lightly when holding back anger. They hide their hands when concealing intentions or discomfort. Humans hold truth in their hands long before they speak it. The hand movements are unfiltered broadcasts from the nervous system, exposing fear, hesitation, excitement, or deception, even when the face stays perfectly composed. Posture is another map of intention. A confident person stands with a relaxed yet open posture. Their chest is forward, shoulders natura, spine aligned. But when someone feels threatened, their body leans away even slightly. When they want welcome or approval, they lean in. When they want to dominate, they take up space. Legs apart, elbows angled outward, shoulders lifted. People often believe their posture shows nothing, but the truth is that posture reveals internal hierarchy, how they view themselves in relation to you. Even the feet betray secrets. Most individuals never look at them, but the feet point toward what the mind desires. If someone's torso faces you but their feet angle away, they want to leave. If their feet angle toward you even when their body doesn't, they are drawn to you. When a person becomes uncomfortable, their toes curl downward inside their shoes. When anxious, they shift weight rapidly. These tiny signs communicate intention long before the person decides how to act. The key to reading micro-behaviors is not to fixate on single signs, but to sense the shift that happens when someone's emotional state changes. People reveal themselves in transitions, going from relaxed to tense, from interested to distant, from confident to uncertain. That shift is where truth lives, and that shift is instant. One moment of eye tension, one twitch of the fingers, one subtle swallow, one hesitation in breath. These flashes reveal more than a full conversation. Most people miss these cues because they rush to speak, rush to react, rush to judge. But a Machiavellian observer slows down. He speaks less, watches more, and creates a silence in which others reveal themselves. People think they are hiding their intentions, but their bodies speak in whispers they cannot control. And once you learn to hear those whispers, you stop being surprised by people. You start seeing them as they truly are. Power does not belong to the one who speaks the loudest, nor to the one who fills the room with presence or charisma. True power belongs to the one who watches, the one who listens, the one who remains silent long enough for others to reveal their intentions. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, the person who chooses silence becomes the only one who truly understands what is happening. Quiet observation is not passive, it is a weapon, a method of gaining information, influence, and psychological advantage without ever having to expose yourself. Most people make the mistake of believing that speaking makes them strong. They think that explaining themselves, defending themselves, announcing their opinions, and expressing their emotions gives them authority. But every word spoken is a piece of yourself surrendered. Every confession is a map of your vulnerabilities. Every reaction is a window into your emotional triggers. When you speak too quickly, you reveal your fears. When you speak too much, you reveal your intentions. When you speak without strategy, you reveal your entire mind. But when you stay silent, no one knows your next move, your true feelings, or what you have already observed. Silence is the shield of the intelligent and the sword of the powerful. This is why quiet observation is so dangerous. It gives you knowledge, and knowledge destroys illusion. When you walk into a room and say nothing, you force others to show you who they are. They talk to fill the silence. They justify themselves without being asked. They express opinions to impress you, not realizing you are studying the insecurity behind those opinions. They ramble, not knowing that every sentence they spill is a crack in their armor. People underestimate silence because they fear it. They fear what it might reveal about them. They fear the judgment they imagine in the quiet. And that fear compels them to reveal far more than they intended. Observe how people behave when the conversation slows. Notice who becomes restless, who becomes defensive, who becomes overly cheerful, who becomes uncomfortable. These reactions expose their psychological structure. A person who cannot sit in silence is someone who fears being alone with their thoughts. A person who rushes to speak is someone who equates talking with control. A person who watches you back is someone who understands the game. Silence reveals power dynamics instantly. Quiet observation also gives you the luxury of choosing your words with intention. When you speak less, every word becomes heavier. People listen more closely. They assign meaning to your silence, even when you remain neutral. They wonder what you are thinking, what you have noticed, what you may have concluded. The less you reveal, the more they project, and the more they project, the easier they are to read. Humans fear the unknown, and when you remain unreadable, you become the unknown. This creates a psychological imbalance where they chase your approval, avoid your disapproval, and try to understand your silence while you quietly understand everything about them. Think of how kings ruled without shouting, how leaders commanded respect without explaining themselves, how strategists won wars before the battles even began. They observed, they gathered information, they watched patterns, they understood weaknesses, desires, alliances, and conflicts long before they acted. A person who masters observation never needs to rush. They see the unfolding of events before they occur because human behavior follows predictable lines when one knows where to look. When you observe quietly, you begin to notice the details that everyone else ignores. The hesitation before someone speaks, the nervous swallow before a lie, the subtle change in tone when a name is mentioned, the shift in posture when a topic threatens their ego. These tiny signals form a full picture of someone's internal world. And because you are not distracted by forcing your own identity into the room, you see everything clearly. Quiet observation also allows you to stay emotionally controlled. When you speak too soon, you often speak from emotion, not insight. But when you observe first, you respond with strategy instead of impulse. You gain time to analyze, to interpret, to predict. This timing advantage transforms every interaction. The one who reacts fastest loses power. The one who responds slowest gains control. Silence creates space, and in that space, your mind sharpens while theirs unravels. People reveal their alliances, their fears, their loyalties, and their weaknesses when they believe no one is judging them. By staying quiet, you give them the illusion of freedom while taking the truth from them piece by piece. Even the arrogant expose themselves when they believe their audience is passive. Even the cunning reveal their intentions when they underestimate the quiet one. Quiet observation is not the absence of action. It is the preparation for precise action. It is gathering the information that others carelessly throw into the air. It is collecting psychological data that you can use to understand, guide, or even manipulate situations without force. A person who speaks little cannot be predicted, cannot be easily attacked, cannot be manipulated. They walk through the world with an invisible shield because no one knows where to strike. And as you watch others, something remarkable happens. You begin to understand patterns that repeat across personalities, across ages, across cultures. You realize that people announce their motives without realizing it. They confess through micro-expressions, through the rhythm of their speech, through their reactions to pressure. Quiet observation turns the world into an open book, and every person becomes a page waiting to be read. Most people judge others based on isolated moments. A single angry outburst, a single kind gesture, a single bad decision, a single good impression. But human behavior is not measured in moments, it is measured in patterns. A moment is accidental, but a pattern is intentional. A moment is emotion, but a pattern is identity. If you want to read anyone instantly and accurately, you must train yourself to look beyond the surface reactions and study the repeated behaviors that reveal who someone truly is. Because people can fake a moment, but they cannot fake a pattern. Think of how easily someone can disguise themselves in a single interaction. A liar can sound honest once. A coward can act brave for a moment. A manipulator can pretend to be caring. A jealous person can hide their envy for a day. People can control themselves in short bursts. They can adjust their tone, polish their manners, and pretend to be whatever image benefits them. But the facade eventually cracks, and when it cracks, the true pattern behind the mask emerges. 5 minutes of impression means nothing. 5 days of consistent behavior means everything. 5 weeks reveals the truth with absolute clarity. Patterns form through repetition. What people do when they are tired, when they are stressed, when they are relaxed, when they believe no one is watching, when they think their behavior has no consequences. These are the moments that show their genuine nature. You must look at how a person behaves under pressure, not just in comfort. How they react when their pride is threatened, how they respond when they don't get what they want, how they treat those who cannot benefit them. These repeated actions expose their real motives far more reliably than any claim they make about themselves. A person who interrupts once might simply be excited. A person who interrupts every time is announcing their insecurity or ego. A person who lies once may be afraid in the moment. A person who lies consistently is revealing a deeper trait, perhaps manipulation, cowardice, or a habit of self-preservation at the expense of truth. A person who shows kindness once may be performing it. A person who shows kindness repeatedly across different situations is expressing their character. Patterns reveal the architecture of someone's mind. When you observe people through this lens, you stop being impressed by grand gestures. You no longer fall for flowery apologies, dramatic promises, or emotional performances. You stop judging by the intensity of a moment and start judging by the consistency of action. Consistency is the purest form of honesty. People cannot maintain behaviors that do not align with their true nature for long. Eventually, their real patterns resurface, expose themselves, and establish the truth you have been waiting for. And here lies the advantage. Once you identify someone's pattern, you can predict their behavior. Not because you are guessing, but because humans repeat themselves. The selfish continue to be selfish. The loyal continue to be loyal. The indecisive continue to hesitate. The arrogant continue to escalate. The insecure continue to seek validation. The manipulative continue to disguise their intentions. What they have done in the past is not an accident. It is a blueprint. It is a map of how they will act again and again and again. Patterns also reveal strength and weakness. If someone consistently avoids difficult conversations, you know they fear confrontation. If someone frequently compares themselves to others, their insecurity is chronic. If someone always tries to influence outcomes subtly, their strategic mind is habitual. If someone speaks badly about every person who is not present, it is only a matter of time before they speak that way about you. A pattern is not just a habit, it is a signature, a psychological imprint that marks someone's identity. Most people ignore patterns because they want to believe in words, they want to believe in promises, hopes, and illusions. They want to believe that someone who hurt them once will suddenly become different, but emotions cloud their judgment. A Machiavellian observer, however, is not blinded by emotion. He studies repetition. He listens more to what people do than to what they say. He does not attach meaning to a single incident, whether positive or negative. He waits, he watches, he collects data. And from that data, he forms a conclusion that is far more accurate than what most people ever achieve in relationships or social situations. Interpretation of patterns also protects you from manipulation. Manipulators often depend on momentary performances, grand apologies, sudden affection, temporary attentiveness. They rely on your short memory and your emotional reactions. But if you judge them by their patterns, their charm loses its effect. Their temporary warmth cannot hide their long-term coldness. Their fake honesty cannot hide their repeated dishonesty. Once you train your mind to value consistency over moments, you become immune to temporary illusions. This skill allows you to navigate people with clarity. You stop expecting sudden changes in others. You stop giving endless chances to those who repeat the same behaviors. You stop being surprised by betrayals that were predictable. And because you see the patterns early, you can predict outcomes before others even notice the signs. Reading people becomes less about intuition and more about observation. You understand not only who they are now, but who they will be tomorrow. In the end, the ability to read people is not a trick, not a talent, and not a gift reserved for the fortunate. It is a discipline, a skill sharpened through calm observation, ruthless honesty, and an understanding of the forces that rule human nature. When you accept that people are driven by predictable emotions, when you learn to see the truth hidden in their micro-behaviors, when you master the power of silence, and when you judge them by patterns rather than moments, the world becomes transparent. You no longer move blindly through conversations or relationships. You no longer guess people's intentions. You no longer fall for masks, performances, or temporary illusions. Instead, you walk with clarity. You anticipate motives before they are spoken. You recognize weakness before it becomes a threat. You sense loyalty before it proves itself. You see deception before it strikes. This is the power Machiavelli understood, the power of perception, the power of reading the human animal as it is, not as it pretends to be. And once you acquire this ability, you no longer react to people. You navigate them. You no longer fear their unpredictability, because they become predictable. You no longer fall into their traps, because you see them coming. Reading people instantly is not about judging them, it is about understanding them, and through understanding, you gain the greatest form of power, control over your interactions, your decisions, and your destiny. This is how you move through the world, not blind, not vulnerable, not deceived, but aware, informed, and always one step ahead.